Yes. So is this clear? Not clear? So that is the advantage of Norway pension fund. So they say, yes, take it. Obviously, they should have that trust factor. So there might be a middleman who might be charging a small commission. Maybe out of 2 million, the middleman is taking 200,000. So now this guy is happy, Norway guy. This guy is happy. Now the hedge fund is taking all the risk. So just like when you buy something, you expect the price to go up. The hedge fund is thinking that I have taken this 1 million share from Norway pension fund. I will sell it at 450, and then within the next 3 months, I expect it to touch 410. So I will recover. So when I recover at 410, I make that $40 into 1 million, $40 million I will make. 2 million I will pay to them, another 2 million as brokerage, another 1 million as fee. I am being very high here. The reality is much less. Still 35 million cool profit I will make. And obviously, when I sell the shares, I get that cash also. So I keep that cash for 3 months and I utilize that for something else. So I earn some interest in that also. Obviously, this all works in this case. This all worked because prices fell. If the price didn't fall, then obviously after 3 months, they either need to return the shares or extend that rent period. So another fee will be added. But obviously the risk will continue because they can keep extending, but every 3 months they'll keep paying that 2 million whatever, because $2 per share is what they agreed. So if they hold for 1 year, $8 they will end up paying for the renting charge as the fees. And if the price doesn't fall, if the price goes up by 20, so their total loss will be 8 plus 20, $28 per share into 1 million. So $28 million loss plus brokerage. So that is how the game is played. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So this hedge fund also would not have shorted only Tesla. They might have shorted 10 and they might have bought 10 also, because they are expecting 10 to go up and 10 to go down. And this is all done via the research team and all which they employ. Obviously, when they get it right, they get good returns. When they get it wrong, they fail. It's a game that everyone is playing. And there is no one hedge fund like this. Maybe there are 2,000 hedge funds in the market.
Can we know whether this company is holding for long term, like this 10 years or something? Will the company reveal this, like this number of shares has been held by this company for a certain number of years?
No. So no company will reveal it, but the way it works, I explained also, right? There will be a middleman who knows. So definitely everyone knows that there are many funds in the market who are known as long only funds, who can only buy, who cannot do short selling. As per their offer document, they are not allowed to do it. Now, obviously, these middlemen have relationship with these funds for many years, 50 years, 100 years. Because, say, like for example, Fidelity may have a long only fund, and this fund has position in Tesla. We will get to know because this is mutual fund, right? Every month they have to publish their statement. So if in their statement they are saying they have invested X amount of money in Tesla, we can calculate how many shares of Tesla they are holding. That is very easy. And anyways, all this disclosure is mandatory. Even now you can find out which mutual fund is holding how many shares of Reliance. Just go to SEBI or type in Google. 1 second. Some people have come in the house for some work. Yeah, where was I? So, yeah, so that information, and anyways, that is where the middleman comes in. So he charges a small commission in that to arrange this.
If you want, I can explain you a simple. I mean, I can in a simple, normal way of explaining the short selling for the others who doesn't know what is exactly the. I mean, in retail terminology, I can explain some. I have some understanding, like a real time example. I can give a small example if you want. If
Yeah,
anyone
sure.
doesn't.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So let's assume that you bought some soap. So you know this soap has some bad news. You are going to buy every day some soaps. Everyone will go to shop and they will be buying some soaps. So you know that company did some fraud things. You know today market is going to be very negative some for that soap. So what you will do is you will go to early to the market without, you don't have any stocks, any soaps, any, you don't want a single soap in your basket, but still you go to shop. What you do is start selling the soap for the guys who came to the shop before they are coming to the shop. So you will be start selling the all the contents what is in the market. You will be just doing the shorting for the, you will just, yeah, empty the stocks whatever the market is there. So because of no, you are sorry, you're starting selling the stocks for the guys who come to the market. So when you do a selling, what will happen, many guys will be, also other guys will be with a panic, they will also start selling. So this create large number of quantities keep in the in the market. Because of the large quantity are available in the market, this leads to price automatically goes down. So short selling is basically you don't need to own anything. You'll go to shop, sell, tell that I want to sell my soaps. You don't have any, that is the beauty of the trading. So it will give you both sides. You can do buying and you can also do selling without owning anything. So you don't need to own a single stock in your demat account. Still you can sell the stocks, which is in the, which is held by a shopkeeper. You got what? So,
Ranjit, that's only true for the intraday trading, not for the short selling. In short selling, you have all those shares in your demat account, which you have borrowed it from somebody else. What you are talking is intraday trading, where you don't have any shares in your account, and then you still can sell. But at the end of the day, you have to square it off by buying it back from the market. That is intraday trading. But what Nishant is saying is the short selling, which is something different. In that scenario, even though you don't actually own it, but you borrow it from somebody else, but when you borrow it, it comes to your demat account before you sell it. If it is not there in your demat account, you cannot sell it.
okay.
Correct. So basically, both are known as short selling, but in intraday short selling, you have to cover it before end of day. In long-term short selling, you have to deliver the share, because if you don't cover it today on Monday, on T+3, you have 2+2 Wednesday, you have to deliver the shares. Because when you buy, if you don't sell it the same day, you have to pay the money to get the shares. Similarly, when you sell, you have to deliver the shares. That is mandatory. Or either you square off the position in the same day. So you bought at 100 and sold at 110, close today only. You sold at 110, bought at 100, close today. But if it doesn't fall in your favor in the intraday, then you have to take a long-term view. So short sellers are very smart. Don't think. See, a short seller is doing exactly the same thing that a normal guy is doing, just reverse. So
Yes.
short seller is doing complete research and analyzing that, okay, this company on 1st of January 2020 is valued at current share price is $400. But according to my research, it should be $300. So I am sure that before 31st of December 2020, it will go to 300 or less, but definitely 300. So on 1st January, I take a call to sell it at 400. But obviously, when I'm selling it, I don't have the shares. So I have to get the shares from someone. And that is where this lending and borrowing comes into the picture. So I borrow it from someone. And when I borrow it, I pay the fees. And how am I able to borrow? Because there is another set of investor in the market who don't believe that it will go to 300. Or even if they believe, they don't want to do anything because their investment horizon is 5 to 10 years. And they are happy with whatever dividend is coming because they might have bought it at $10. And now $2 dividend is coming. So for them, return is 20% just by dividend because their purchase price is 10. Understanding? So they don't mind. So for them, that share will be there in their account. When they lend it to me, it's an extra income for them. So they are happy to lend. The only thing is trust factor. They should be trusting me that I will return their shares. It is like you have bought a house, right? A lot of people did that in India, na? For 30 lakhs. You bought it because you believe after 10 years it will be worth 3 crores. But in the meantime, if you can get some rent out of it, it is good, right? An additional 3 lakh per year will not hurt you. The only thing is You want to rent it to someone you can trust, that he will pay the rent on time, he will not spoil your house. That basic hygiene you will take care of. That is where you use a middleman. You use a broker. Similarly, here you use a broker. We call the same word actually. You use a broker who arranges this deal. Understood? It is not that complicated. In cash also it's same, right? When I'm buying, I have to give the cash. If I don't have, I will borrow from someone and I will pay interest on that cash. And
Prashant, I have one question related to this. So in stock lending and borrowing, can there be multiple middlemen people in between, or it is always between two parties? I mean, can there be middlemen? Like if, for example, as you said,
there
a
is always
long-term
middleman, right? So basically, generally in between,
No.
there will be a bank. So, or broker. So there is broker. Say Ashrar is the lender. I am the borrower. You are the broker. So you know Ashrar. I also, and you know me also. So I come to you and saying, Akash bhai, मेरे को 20 million shares चाहिए. I need 20 million shares of Tesla. You will say, yes, I will arrange. I will ask you how much. You will say $2 per year. Yeah, $2 per month. If it is acceptable to me, I will say fine. You will go to Ashrar. You will say, boss, you have 20 million shares. I have somebody who will give you $1.80 per month. So Ashrar will say, take it. So $1.80 into 20 million is 36 million for him every month. He is happy. I am giving you $2, so 40 million. The difference is yours. 4 million you are keeping per month for arranging this deal.
No, my question is, can there be one more middleman in between? Like, for example, if you are
Why
asking
two
for
middlemen
50
is
million,
needed, right? You are there, right? One is enough, na?
one is enough, but for like everybody will try to take their own share, like try to take their own cut. So can there be multiple middlemen in between? Is it possible or not?
It is possible. So say for example, I come to you and you don't, so I know you and I say, boss, I need 20 million shares of Tesla. So you said, okay, I will give. But you don't know Ashrar. Ashrar has the shares. But you know Ranjit. So you go to Ranjit. Ranjit, bhai, you have 20 million shares. Ranjit will say, yes. Because he knows Ashrar and he knows Ashrar has. So then Ranjit will go to Ashrar. So, but more middleman means more cut, right? So then Ranjit will give Ashrar 160. He will keep 20 paisa. He will charge you 180. You will give 180 to Ranjit. You will charge me 2. So basically, I paid you 2. Ashrar got 1.6. Both the middlemen got 20 paisa.
And
Yeah,
like Meko, where can we find this information? Because like for example, if a company which is doing this, because I think some banks are doing this, so in their annual report, I couldn't find any information related to this,
Which
like
bank is
share
doing
lending
this?
and borrowing. I searched HDFC, I searched
No.
HDFC Bank.
Bank is doing means so broker. You want to know who's the broker? Like
Acting as a broker. Yeah, who is acting as a broker, and how we find like their
go to
parameters
any
of like success
Goldman
rate.
Sachs, JP Morgan. You go, they have that. No? They club all this under FIC, fixed income currency commodity trading. So everything comes under this. All stock lending business, all is part of FIC, fixed income currency commodity trading or equity trading.
Okay.
This happens both in bonds and equities, by the way, because bond prices also fluctuate. Today, a bond might be trading at $90. Tomorrow, it can be $85. So people short bonds also. Everything. In the huge market. This market is very huge. You can see, companies engaged in stock lending and borrowing. Google, I will show you right now.
Nishan, maybe you can also talk about the VIX index. Maybe it's like a buying a insurance. If you know market is going to be crash, then I sent some ticker code in the chat. If anyone is scared that today market is going to be crashed, buy this stock so that you will have some kind of leverage, so that
Hey, don't go into all that. Yeah.
your losses will be compensated.
There is a term called VAR. Have I covered VAR, value at risk? I explained it 2-3 times. I want all of you to read it. Tomorrow we can talk about it. VAR. I will give you one link. So this link is there. Problem is nowadays in India, so many people started doing it. It opens only India links. The basics of stock lending borrowing. Zerodha explains well. It will be explained here.
No, I think it's because of your cookies.
What is happening?
India results.
So anyways, let me try to open GS financial report. It is there. So generally, see, none of these companies publish very detailed financial results. They will club it under FIC or something. Let's see. But yeah, all of the big banks do it. So whether it Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, all of them have this stock lending borrowing business. It's a very profitable business actually.
I think ICCI is doing more Indian brands. I would say.
As Indian market is growing, all the Indian companies will also start to do. Obviously.
Nishant, these companies also they do everyday intraday trading. No? Normally Goldman Sachs and other. There are some group of techies are working. The guys who are
No,
technical.
wait. There are different things, right? So that what you are saying is known as proprietary trading. But there a lot of restrictions came. So many of these guys left. So proprietary trading was basically Goldman Sachs will give its own money to trade to its
Yeah.
own traders. But that was banned in many markets. So that is why these guys left Goldman and all and they formed their own hedge funds. So there was this Volcker rule, na?
No, you're talking in Indian market or in US market? They stopped their.
In many markets, India has always been very restrictive. See, all of these was allowed mostly in US. Europe and all are anyways very strict. So
No, because I thought, for example, ICCI maybe took the short call and they might start selling the.
no, because see, there is a lot of conflict of interest, right? So that is why I encourage. Have you guys all read about the Glass-Steagall Act?
No. Can
And
you write it? It's glass. What is it? Glass.
all of these I have mentioned. Wait, I will give the link. I will show you. I will show you now. One by one. First, I am trying to see here. Let's see if it works.
I think I don't know. I don't like the idea of banning one. They should be like a game. Everyone should.
Boss, everything is not a video game, na. You will say ki open casinos in every city, right?
Yeah. It should be good. If anyone who
I
is
used to
good,
think
they
like that. You need to grow up, then you will change your mind. When I was
no.
25, I also thought like that every city should have casino. Then I thought deeply and I thought it was such a genius idea to create Las Vegas. Then I realized it was such a bad idea. So that is how it is. Anyways, stock lending borrowing is not coming. So forget about it. I will show you Glass-Steagall Act. So all of you need to read it. But see, point is investing time is very critical, right? Because people are telling me that time they don't have. That is very big problem. Without time, it is very difficult to learn. So this act, I want all of you to read, and I want you to read how it was passed in their in the U.S. Congress and all that, Senate and all. So it was a very difficult legislation to pass, and there was very much reason for it to get it passed. And you should all read about why it happened. So all the historical reasons are here, but you need to do some more reading. Okay, this is at a very high level to introduce you to the subject. So basically this was all related to the Great Depression. Okay, so 1929 Great Depression and the wirehouse crisis. Okay, so you guys need to know what was a wirehouse and all. Great Depression. Actually, when you read, you will realize how much fraud was going on in that time. And because of this regulation was passed. But then these guys reversed this. Okay, I hope there might be a link here only. If not, I will give you that reversal also. Any questions you guys have? Reversal will be here. Huh? No, it is not there. This is a bad article. So then this was reversed by this act.
Graham, see that? Graham Belly Act, something.
Graham Leach Bailey.
I think this shows how capital markets are matured in US. They are did in 1930s only. All these scams or whatever, the bill was passed. Everything they are
No,
into.
everywhere it is the same, right?
They are very deep in this subject. I mean, they are played. They are big fish in the capital markets. I would say.
Obviously, right. I
Market.
will share one video on Cuba. Cuba was same. They had converted Cuba into a capitalistic society and how corporate greed had taken over Cuba. See, people only talk about communism, but they don't realize that it was a reaction to something. So between 1901 and 1955, Cuba had a huge amount of capitalism. And basically whole of Cuba was servant to some big companies in US. So obviously the reaction had to happen. And the reaction happened against those companies. And those companies were owned by people who were so powerful that they turned everyone in America against Cuba. But the reality is that the people of Cuba had never any enmity against the people of America. They had no issues with each other. And these few rich people used the military of the United States for their personal gain. So there is another video. I will share those videos in the group. Make the correlation. US was the highest producer of crude oil for a very long time, from 1901 till 1970. So because US was producing so much of crude oil, the US economy became addicted to crude oil because it was easily available. And their whole industry adapted to using crude oil in one form or another. Now, obviously, when you have invested such huge amounts of money, who has invested? Few rich people have invested into factories and all, which run on crude oil. So alternatives can be found, but they don't want to find because now they want to protect their investment. And to protect their investment, they are then blackmailing other countries to sell their crude oil to them. And once that dependency is reduced over the last few years, because again with fracking and all, US started producing huge amount of oil. So they slowly said, go to hell. Saudi Arabia, you find a solution to your problem. We don't care because we have enough oil now. We don't need your oil. It's a very, very interesting correlation. So I will give you all this data. And that is why I keep saying economics, politics, religion are very closely interrelated. Until you start to understand that connection, you will never have the deep learning. Or unless you get the deep learning, you will not be able to make the connection. But once you make the connection, it is so easy that everything is related and it's a game. Like you say, Ranjit, it is actually a game that they are playing. Nobody loves Syria and all. They are only there to control that oil resources or the geopolitics of it. Even the fight between China and Taiwan, how it started, why it started. Taiwan was actually under Japanese rule for a very long time. The Japanese only vacated Taiwan after World War II. So South Korea was under Japan. Singapore was under Japan. A lot of areas Japan had captured. And wherever Japan captured, the first thing Japanese did is, so Japan did a lot of bad things, but they did one very good thing, land reforms. Wherever they went, they divided the land. So that immediately improved yields. In India, we still don't have proper land acts. So after we got independence, the land was confiscated by the government of India. Like today, central government of India probably owns millions of acres of land, millions of acres, or hundreds of millions of acres, which is just lying there. So why they are not selling it, I don't know. Why? What they will do with that land? And there are land which is giving on lease for 1 rupee for 99 years, 2 rupees to some company, and that land will be worth 50,000 crores today. So obviously the company that got the lease never wants to vacate it because they are paying 2 rupees per year for a land which is worth thousands of crores. And this is how assets are being wasted.
One example is Adani Ports. Actually, you got it for 2 rupees or something.
There are many such examples. Yeah, if you go deep, there will be many examples. But anyways, I digressed from the subject, but I just wanted to give some perspective. Any other questions, guys, on any topic?
Sir, normally, if you want to buy some land or something, how they, how they will auction it or something, how to rent it, that kind of infrastructure. How is the policies in India to get a land or something from the government? That does state government do, or central government does this kind of things?
No. Who wants the land?
let's say I want to have some kind of leasing scheme for 100 years. Who will do this leasing authority? Who will take the
So
responsibility?
land comes under the state subject. So generally the way it will happen is, in India there are two kind of land. One by state government, or many kind of land, but two kind of land primarily, either land owned by the state government or land owned by the central government. So if it is land owned by the state government, and generally in within the states have power to make laws on land. So if the land comes under the state government, so say I want to set up a factory, like Infosys set up this factory in Electronic City, right? Or the campus. So they will make an application to the government of Karnataka saying we want 200 acres of land. Now, if it is a very big project, then the government of India might also be interested. So they will make a parallel application to the government of India. And obviously then it will take 3 to 6 months or 9 months, and whatever other things happen, they will make that process. And then if the government of Karnataka feels that they will put some conditions saying, okay, or in their application only Infosys will say that I am going to generate 5,000 employment opportunity, then obviously Karnataka government may say that, okay, 50% of that should be for local people. So agrees or does not agree, or the government of India will step in saying, no, it is in the national interest of India. So if 5,000 jobs are created, whether it is for Karnataka people or not, if it is in Karnataka, at least the taxes will come to you. So if you are not interested, we will give it to Tamil Nadu. So then the Karnataka government will say, okay, fine, we will agree. So then 200 acres of land, they will agree on a price, whether it's a freehold or a leasehold. Freehold means they will sell it off. So they will say, okay, 1 crore per acre, because you are generating so much job, we'll give you subsidy. So actual price is 10 crore per acre, but you are giving it at 1 crore per acre. So Infosys will pay 200 crore to the state government and take the land, like Infosys did in this case. Or it can say, the government can say, no, we are not going to sell it, we will give it for lease. It can be, lease can be 10 rupees per year per acre, or 1 rupee per year per acre, based on how much employment is generated. So in the name of employment, companies get this, right? It's like kind of a subsidy. So the government is giving them land at a subsidized rate, and the company in turn is creating jobs. When it pays salary to those employees, they will pay income taxes, which generates revenue for the government. Those employees will buy goods and services, which will again create GST revenue for the state government. So that way everybody wins. So it's like that. But the point is, when the prices of land have gone up so much, so it, in a way, it may be unfair, because 50 years ago, nobody was ready to invest. So in their right mind, the government agreed into 100 year. Although I think that 100 year is too long, maybe 20 years might be enough. But then again, if the government had given 20-year offer at that time, the companies might not have invested. So I don't know. Like for example, this Tata Motors plant, right? In Bengal, they got some 300 acres. But then Mamta created all the drama. So Gujarat said, okay, if they are creating drama, you come here, we'll give you 300 acres. They gave the land, they got the jobs. Right. So all the jobs got created in Gujarat. So where jobs are there, people will go. So people who might have stayed in Bengal, maybe a lot of people from Bengal only went to Gujarat for working, because they did not allow the industry to be set up. All that will happen. But yeah, coming to the land, this is how it usually works. They are trying to simplify it, but the laws are very messy, and the records are also not very clear. The titles are not clear. So that is what, now if they fix all this, that is what I'm saying, that government of India has lot of ways to get money. Like this Majgaon IPO also, why they are selling only 20%? They could have sold 60%. They could have sold whole 100% of Majgaon, right? What is the use of government keeping it? Right? They can sell SBI. Government of India still owns a large percentage of SBI. They can sell LIC. Only 10% of LIC they will sell, but they can sell 60%. They can sell BSNL, Air India, everything they can sell. Why they are holding on? Air India anyways is loss making, nobody wants to buy, but others, right? They can start selling land, auction land, right? Government of India has lot of high value land in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. Start selling the land, 10 crore, 10 crore per acre, 50 crore per acre, whatever is the market rate. They will get bids. Maybe 50 crore, make it 49, 48, sell it off. Huge amount of money will come. That is why, right, when people say that the government is bankrupt, it's totally wrong. They are many ways to raise taxes, but they are not doing it because of some political reason. But when the situation, even people keep saying, right, like US 3 trillion of bond of American government is owned by Chinese. Yeah, if China sells, Fed will buy. What will happen? Nothing will happen. If China today sells all 3 trillion of bonds, Fed will create a accounting entry 3 trillion, buy all the bonds. And then slowly, once the situation stabilizes, Fed will sell it to Fidelity, Vanguard, whoever wants to buy 1 billion, 2 billion, like that. or people will only buy, American people, 50,000, 100,000, 10,000, 200, 500, like that. So only they will sell it off. So all of these tools are applicable in the hands of the government. Anything else?
Nishant, I had one question. Now, what is the outstanding share means? There are, when I was going through this Apple, your first presentation, there are two stuffs under this equity. Outstanding share means?
Can you share the screen? But basically, what you are asking is that is total number of shares.
Exactly in that, yeah. Exactly.
So basically, a company has maybe 10 million shares. That is known as outstanding shares, which means the number of shares which is held by the public and the promoter, whatever, total number of shares that the company
Together,
has
okay.
issued.
Totally issued, okay. They were planning to, for example, okay.
And then what happens is, say 10 million shares is there. That is known as total outstanding share. Then you will see basic and diluted. So I explained this. So basic is total 10 million. Diluted means they have issued some stock option, but they have not been exercised. So once it is exercised, the number of shares will increase from 10 million to 11 million. So stock option could have been issued to, yeah, it is always issued to employees only, or there might be some convertible bonds also which I have issued, which when converted to equity, the number of shares will increase. But the condition has not been satisfied, or the condition, yeah, the condition is not satisfied. Yeah, once the condition is satisfied, they may or may not be converted. That is why they call it diluted. So there are two numbers that they publish. So that is why every financial result you will see basic EPS, diluted EPS. Basic EPS means if profit is 100 million and total number of shares is 10 million before the stock options converting and convertible bond converting, then 100 million divided by 10 million, $10 is my basic EPS. My diluted EPS will be, I will add that extra 1 million shares, which will be created once all the stock options are utilized or after this convertible bonds are utilized. So when I divide 100 by 100 million by 11 million, I get $9. So my basic EPS will always be high. My diluted EPS will be low. So 10 and 9. So many times people consider only the diluted EPS because we always have to assume the small lesser number. So when you take diluted EPS, then you multiply it by 20. Say P ratio, the market thinks 20 is a fair P ratio. So the share price should be 180. If it is more than 180, it is overvalued. Less than 180, it is undervalued. Just I gave one basic example. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I think I will go through once again, then hopefully I'll get the point. Yes.
Some
Otherwise, I'll
companies
come
will
back.
minus, Nishant, some company will be having minus. Does it a good or what?
What minus?
P ratio will be minus.
P ratio, how it can be minus here? If there is no profit, then obviously it's zero. Minus means zero profit. So obviously it is bad, na? Company is in loss. So if company made no profit, but there is no theory of minus P ratio, it will not be published only. Because if my profit is zero, even if I multiply into 1000, 0 into 1000 is zero only. So there cannot be P ratio, you cannot assign. Because if my EPS is zero and share price is 100, 100 divided by zero is infinity, right?
I found some companies. Okay. Fine.
So basically companies which are in loss will not publish any P ratio because obviously their EPS itself is in negative. So now if you say, okay, EPS of a company is -2, share price is $18. So -2 into -9 is equal to 18. That way, if you are saying -9 P, okay, that's not a correct maths. Because, yeah, you can do that, matlab -9 will be the answer. So if you divide 18 by -2, your answer is -9. But P ratio cannot be negative, right? So which means that company is actually having -2 EPS means it is in loss. So what P ratio you will assign? So the only thing is first the company need to turn into a profit. See, the whole concept of P ratio is if my EPS is $10 and my expected profit growth for next 5 years consistently is 20%. So I will say my P ratio should be around 20. So 10 into 20, my share price should be 200. Next year when my EPS goes to 12, the share price will be 240, so on. Because every year if profit is growing 20%, share price should also grow 20%. But in real world, it never happens like that. Because there might be years my profit grows 20%, but share price only grows 15%, which means P has reduced for whatever reason, because the future expected profits reduced. And reverse can also happen. My profit increased 20%, but share price increased 30%, because market expects the growth to be even higher, or maybe supply demand mismatch. My company is considered one of the leaders, so there is lack of supply or less. Promoter shareholding is very high, so very less shares available for the public, or the management is excellent, they have very good reputation. uh, in 2020 I had an excellent management, profit grew 30%, but end of 2020 my CEO died, a very well loved CEO. So the share price may fall. Although profit growth was excellent, the share price will fall. So profit grew 20%, but my share price grew only 10% because there was some this kind of event. So a lot of scenarios happened. So theoretically, if I am putting it on a paper, it will be a very simple math saying, okay, if profit grows 20%, share price should go 20%. But in real world, it never happens like that because there are many other unknowns. Like look at Reliance only. If you compare last year, this year profit growth will not be 100%, but share price went up 100%. Why? Because they have retail and Jio, and lot of foreign investors are taking stakes. Why they are taking stakes? Because they have nowhere else to go. There is only one big market left, which is India. Like look at Mubadala and all. Why they are coming to India? Because in India they can expect 10-12% return. Saudi there is no return.
No, it's not, Nishant. I got to know Pakistan stock market is also almost 30% went up because of the foreign investors.
Again,
Not true.
Pakistan will obviously go up, right? They are even worse than us. Means they are at a much lower base. So Pakistan, Bangladesh will definitely outperform, right? If they just, because they only have law and order in few situations. If they can tighten some of the corruption and all, they will grow like anything, obviously, right? Because there the opportunity is very big and they are not small countries. Pakistan population is around 25 crore. Bangladesh population is around 25 crore. Again, huge markets. Right? These are the new customers, right? Because Americans are fed up of consumerism. Understand that story is ended. It started in 1950, so almost 70 years people got that story. Now they are going back. They are probably going to consume less because they are fed up. How much will they consume? At some point, people realize that you are being lied to, right? Look at Indian cities, right? Consumption is going down in the cities. It is going up in smaller towns. Why? Because there people think that consumption will make me happy. It's like a cycle, right? Like for example, me, I am not a good consumer. I consume very less because I am bored. And even when I was younger, I didn't consume much, but I still consume more than I do today. So at 25, I was more likely to change my phone every 2 years. Now I will not, although my affordability has gone up, because I will only change it when I need it. I don't want to buy a new iPhone every year. Doesn't make any sense to me. So that is always there. But there are 23-year-olds in Bangalore who buy a new iPhone every year. They will have the latest model. And many of them, even if they don't have money, they take on credit card and buy. Yeah? And credit card debt is very high. 24% interest they are paying. So that all is happening. And they are the actually good consumers, right? They buy, they take rent, they take on loan. So they are beneficial for everyone. Banks make money,
Yeah.
Apple makes money, everyone makes money, the middleman makes money, everyone is happy, except that guy who's taking the loan. That is why I told, right? Watch the Suzy Orman show on YouTube. Did you guys watch? I don't know. This lady is good. This Rachna Ranade is copying her model only. Any other questions, guys?
Can you set the agenda for this entire month?
For this entire month agenda, yeah, tell me what you guys want to cover. Basically, see, today we had enough questions, so I covered it. I was actually thinking that Ashrar and Siddharth will present Netflix, but Siddharth didn't turn up again today, so I don't know where he is. So ideally 2 to 3 classes should be Netflix. and 1 or 2 classes more on blockchain. So that will be the agenda. So that's 4 or 5 classes. Whatever remaining classes, I will take question and answers and cover the remaining part of mutual funds and move on to hedge funds if time permits. That is the agenda. Nimit, tomorrow you are available to cover blockchain or yeah, blockchain or Ripple, whatever. Nimit can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, I was saying tomorrow I am available, but let's say not prepared really to cover up the blockchain.
Okay, so next weekend maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I can, if there are any questions or concerns or anything that need to be discussed, I can do that. But let's say just purely from the talking perspective or covering up a new topic from the blockchain, I think that's something which is I have to, let's say, look out and prepare for it probably for a few hours to see what I can cover in a specific session. But yeah, I can take any questions or clarifications if anyone has.
So tomorrow, if Siddharth and Ashrar are present, we will do Netflix. If both of them are not present, means one of them is also not present, then I will start off with hedge funds and sovereign wealth funds. I'll talk more about hedge funds and sovereign wealth funds and how they came into existence and what is their role in the markets, how they raise money and all of that.
Okay.
And then yeah, take questions also. But yeah, so like Venkat went through the Apple presentation. So Venkat, I'm assuming you just started watching the videos. So that is the first one you watched. So you have a lot of background to cover. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you guys can spend some time watching those videos and making notes, right, that makes it more interesting, because then we can find that what all skills people are lacking. Because we have covered a good amount of topics, and both Srihari and Venkat, you have been with the group for about 2 months now, right? About 10 to 12
1.5 month.
classes
Yeah.
you have attended, more than that
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
So you guys have picked up a lot of things. So if you can just revise those also in your mind, and I don't know if you like writing notes and all, come up with your questions, it will be helpful. Like Srihari made a very good summary of that currency market. So if there are questions, right, that will be good. And Srihari, I know you ask good questions, but you keep saying that you need to invest the time. So if you can invest some of that time, come up with questions, it will help you also, and maybe others also to improve their skill base. And yeah, I strongly encourage all of you to go back and watch all the videos that you have not been part of, and also some of the sessions that you have been part of as a revision. Because in the session of 1 hour, you may not have understood everything. But when you hear it again, it may kind of help you recollect. You see my point?
Yeah, I mean, I need another 4 weeks actually. I am quite occupied, but definitely I will pick up.
Sure. So yeah, so tomorrow, that is what the agenda will be. Netflix. If they are not present, then the next one will be hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, private equity funds, venture capital funds. All four I will talk about. All have different roles to play in the market. So we can see what I can cover in tomorrow. And obviously, take questions. And if there are any questions from mutual fund, because we did 2 sessions on mutual funds, diversified mutual funds, open-ended, close-ended, diversified sectoral, fixed income mutual funds, equity mutual funds, balanced mutual funds, small cap mutual funds, large cap mutual funds, mid cap mutual funds, multi cap mutual funds. So any questions on that also, I'll be happy to take. And obviously, if you have done some other reading or something that you came up in the real world that you didn't understand much. And yeah. And also, I would encourage all of you to start making small investments, because when you start seeing some profits, that will also motivate you. I can give you some good stocks to pick up for about a years or 2 years horizon. If you guys can tell me what is your expected rate of return, I can give you some stocks which will give you an average of 20% gross return, which means if you buy it for 100, hold it for a year, anytime in that 12-month period, it can reach 120. It can reach in 6 months, 3 months, but definitely in a year, it will give you around that much. I can give you enough options with 20% return. But you
De do
should be,
Nishant bhai.
ए तुमको तो इतना दिया है यार, तो
अरे नहीं,
केमकॉन ही ले लो, 600 में ले लो।
केमकॉन तो भी बहुत ज्यादा लंबा चला
Sorry.
गया है।
कहाँ?
Nishant, in English, please. Yes, so I cannot
sorry.
understand.
I was saying Chemcon buy at 600, 720 it will reach. Otherwise buy IDFC First Bank at around 30. Okay, wait, first I need to stop the recording.
IDFC